Hi everyone, hi, Kelvin from London here. Okay, today we're going to review the Sansui Au 101 and I'm comparing it with the Au 317 because I think it's nice to have a bit of compare and contrast, and it will give you an idea of, you know, what happens across time, you know, because this is a younger, not much younger, but this is a younger Sansui. This Sansui Au 101 really is kind of like a classic amp, do you know what I mean? There were a lot of them made, they sound good, and you know, they're kind of slightly mythic, or not mythic, but you know, they're sort of, there'd be in a book called Classic Hi-Fi, let's say that, and people that sort of are in deep into hi-fi and stereo kind of heard of this amp. I guess in a way it was sort of one of the first really good amps. I suppose you could call it like that. You might think of like this as a bit like the NAD 3020, but 10 years earlier. Yeah. So this is a kind of famous thing. Sansui Au 101. It's about 1970, and it's only 15 watts. But you know, like as you probably know, a 1970s 15 is like a 30 watts of today. And this is Au 317, which is about 1978. And this is actually 50 watts a channel, yeah? So this is more powerful. I mean, even though that's more powerful than that, you know, I'm just turning the volume knob up a bit further on this one, and that's how I've been doing my listening tests, yeah? I'll show you some features on the back of this one in particular, and I'll show you the back in a minute. And I'll also show you these. For testing these amps, I used a pair of old sensitive speakers, yeah? I didn't want to use a pair of sort of modern speakers that really required a lot of driving, because they kind of wouldn't be fair on this Sansui. So I'll just show you there, hang on one sec. So that's what yeah. So I use these 4-way Bang & Olufsen, very sensitive, yeah. You don't need to put the volume dial up much to get quite a lot of sound out of things like that, which is really handy. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'll turn these around just so you can see the back. And, you know, nothing too remarkable here. Bit boring with this Sansui. You've got a screw, it doesn't have very nice speaker terminals, yeah? You know, you have trouble keeping the wire in there and screwing it up. Whereas this has more modern push button ones. This one has, you know, 2 sets of speakers. What's this got? Phono, aux and tape. So your CD can go in aux, and if you want another source you can go into tape, you know. CD can also go into tape, by the way. One nice feature of this 317, it has here preamp in and out. That's a, you know, that's a handy feature. You can use access power amps from other amps and use this preamp, or the other way round, you know. So, you know, there's kind of more fun, and you know, sometimes that can be useful, but ultimately, you know, we want an amp that's a good amp. That's the whole point of it. But okay, let's turn this back here. I mean, one thing I should say is, because I have got just like a ton of Sansui, like 10 at least, amps or receivers, and in this period of time up to the late, from the say 1970 up to 1978, there is no doubt, you know, there's a Sansui sound, yeah? It's different to the sound of Marantz, it's different to the sound of Pioneer, and even though these amps don't sound the same, they still have the Sansui sound, you know, whatever it is, the transformers, the capacitors, the design, the whole thing. There's a particular Sansui sound, and I've got to say it's my favourite of the Japanese amplifiers, you know. And it is basically kind of a smooth sound. I think it's detailed, you know, I think it's pretty I think it's more authentic than most Japanese amps, basically. But okay, so okay, let's just do, price wise, these are kind of go on eBay, they kind of go for similar prices, yeah. Now this one is older, yeah, and so, you know, if you get one that's been recapped and been really seriously fixed up, you know, for 200 quid or 180 quid, I'd say that's worth having. Do you know what I mean? This one is probably still okay. And you know, it really sounds, they're both sounding fine though. I can imagine that would improve if you know, because it's older, basically. So yeah, they both go on eBay for around 150, 200 quid. It's hard to say these things now. It just depends whether it's buy it now or it's in an auction. You know, it'll definitely be cheaper if it's in an auction. Okay, I'll just do very quickly the sound and then I'm going to go into detail on sound. Now, it is known by people that are into Sansui a lot that whoever the guy's name is who was in charge of Sansui, he was trying to make these amps sound like valve amps. Yeah, that's the kind of sound he was after. You know, he's very particular about these details. And if I was to sum it up, this has got a valvey sound. Yeah, it's still got a fair bit of, it's got a good amount of bass for a 15-watt thing, but it's got the sweet, ethereal, you know, ambience that you get with a valve amp, you know. And even though that is not a bad amp at all, you know, that does have a kind of sweeter sound. This is, you know, this is good too. They are similar things. This is kind of beefier, a little more transistor, not, you know, not getting bad, but a little bit, you know, obviously not like a valve sound, and a bit more, maybe there's probably a teeny bit more detail and obviously more oomph coming out of here in the lower end, but you know, not a big deal. But let me go through, if I go through some songs, this will, you know, it will emerge for you what I'm on about here. So I'm doing this thing that I used to do before, which is I go through 3 songs. You can, you know, listen to these at home too if you want. And I listen to each one and make notes on each amplifier. So the first one I listened to today was Too High, Stevie Wonder. It's a great song if you're interested, you know. So let me see now. So yes, I've got this one here, more involving. It's got, this is the AU101, more involving than the 317. It's got a light touch, do you know what I mean? It feels lighter and more agile, more spacious. It's definitely more spacious. And I've put here light, feel, quick. Okay, so this 317, I've put the voice, it just, I got a slight sort of unhappiness with the voice. This is super minor, very small, and really good drums at the end. There's a load of floor toms going on at the end, and that's kind of where a bit of power, and this one sort of being a more modern machine, just getting a little hold of a bit more detail. Do you know what I'm saying? So, you know, and the low end too, so that was noticeable there. Okay, second song I listened to, which I do because it's kind of a demanding song, yeah, it's not a particularly favourite song of mine, but it's got a lot of sort of action in it. It's called The Right Profile by The Clash. So let's do the other way around this time. So starting with this one, I've just put, yeah, it's nice. This is smooth. Both of these are smooth as hell, yeah? Smooth as hell, and you know, not undetailed. They're both smooth. Listen to them all day. The sax is nice. The voice on here, not as good as this, yeah? Not as good as AU101. And the thing about that is, it's somehow, you listen to a record on these 2 amps, you know, or any time I'm comparing amps, and sometimes one speaker or one amp just gets me more involved in it, you know, it just draws me in and I'm enjoying it more. And that happened here with this one, yeah, because the voices, the vocals were just better there. Yeah, and yeah, yes, good vocals, light feel again, the valvey sound, yeah, the light valvey sound. The third final song I listened to was Now That I've Found You, Alison Krauss, which is a very sort of modern recording. I'm listening to these on CD, by the way. There's some finger picking on that song. There's some guitar finger picking on that song. And again, you know, I've got to hear, you know, the finger picking is not so good on this 317. On here, I'm really into it, you know, and I've actually even put here dreamy acoustic. There's also a little drum rim shot on that, and it just sounds more authentic on here. More authentic. Now this is not inauthentic, this is not a bad amp, this is a good amp, but it just sounds a little bit better, a little bit more real, a little bit more in the room with me. And I've also put, this is making me think I'm slightly stoned, right? It's a bit more, it's transporting me, like I've had a bit of a smoke, right? It's like, you know, it's just more involving, you know, so it's, you know, that's probably okay, let's leave it at that. So what would I say? Okay, sum it up. If I had to pick between these amps, I'd pick that one. This is good. The thing is, with only 15 watts, you don't want these, you know, you want to pick your speakers right, yeah? I wouldn't have some compact modern speaker with a aluminium cone. This is going to exploit a big pair of old speakers nicely, because there's a lot more, there's a bit more space in the sound of this one than this one. There's a certain frequency, you might call it exaggerated or slightly stylized, but this definitely makes more space. And you know, you want cones, you know, that's why things like that with the multiple cones, you get all that space going on there, yeah? So what I'm saying is, you know, if you had a nice big pair of old speakers, paper cones possibly, this would, and it's also very smooth, so if you have an amp, speakers that are a little bit spiky or the tweeter isn't too lovely, this will kind of smooth it out, yeah? This will kind of govern that, yeah? You get that with speakers and amps, yeah? That some, you know, a really smooth amp will tame a rough sounding speaker or a metal dome tweeter, something like that, you know. They can, you know, it works that way. So I would just say, in conclusion, I'll give it marks out of 10, yeah? So I'm going to give this one, for what it is, 15 watts a channel, 8.5, 9 out of 10, yeah? It's a good amp, it's a famous amp. And this one, I'm going to give like 8.5 out of 10. This is still a lovely amp, and if you need power, this is a bargain, I would say, if you get that for like 150 quid. You know, these are my amps. Most of the stuff I've got sounds good, else they wouldn't still be in my possession. You know, these would sound better than, say, a Yamaha. I would say it would definitely sound better than a Pioneer. I would prefer it to Marantz, because the Marantz is a little bit, teeny bit edgy for me. But, you know, anyway, I hope that gives you the picture. If you want to, please leave any comments, or if you want to say, if like, don't go into too much detail, or I want more detail, or tell me what you want and I'll try to do it. You know, this is my hobby. I'm not making money here, I'm not selling products. And you know, let me know what you have that sounds good, and we can swap information and, you know, just get some better sound going on. Okay, that's it. Thanks. Bye for now.